All right, welcome everybody. Are you ready? Because we are about to go on a journey where I promise you have probably never gone before. This, of course, is your host, Dr. Craig Weiner of the Transformational Dialogues. And, you know, every time I say, the guest just keeps getting better and more fun and more interesting, and it does. My experience proves me out. Today we have the great pleasure, honor, joy, all of that, of having with me Melissa Joy Johnson and Richard Bartlett of Matrix Energetics. You've got to know them. If you don't, you are just so out of the loop. It's crazy. These guys are just rock stars. They are traveling the world. Right now they're in San Diego, and then they're moving up to Toronto, Seattle, New Jersey, Italy, and they're just traveling the world teaching their work. So let me give you just a little bit of background for those of you that don't know either of them. Dr. Richard Bartlett is a colleague. He's a chiropractor, naturopath. And, you know, I'll let him tell a little bit more of his story, but just briefly, he had been inspired by a chiropractor. He became a chiropractor, and when he was in chiropractic school, his second child was born with some really challenging physical problems. He'd get pneumonia every 3 weeks of his life, and that experience of trying to find a way to save his child led him to something called total body modification with Dr. Viktor Frankl. So he just started from the very beginning, have a personal experience with really esoteric and wonderful forms of healing. He then graduated Parker. He became a naturopath, and his life just kind of unfurled. I met Richard several years ago, and we're going to talk more about that. But who's Melissa? Melissa Joy is the president of Matrix Energetics. She's a co-instructor of the Matrix Energetics System of Transformation. She also had a transformative experience. She was in the pharmaceutical industry. And her life has been totally turned in, is it more than 180 degrees? No, definitely 180 degrees. And so the two of them are basically leading and teaching around the world a body of work called Matrix Energetics. And we're going to talk about the Matrix. We're going to talk about the work they're doing. I'll share some of my experiences with Matrix, and we're just going to go for a roller coaster ride. So, without further ado, welcome, Melissa Joy. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you very much. We're delighted to be here.
You're welcome. Did I overwhelm you with that, or were you guys okay?
No, that's perfect.
Good. All right. So, you know what? For those people that don't know anything about Matrix Energetics, and they know about, you know, the word matrix and the field, and there are a lot of other words that, you know, the one point, the God point, all these different phrases that refer to the ethers in between. Can you give us a sense of what Matrix Energetics is in relationship to that, so people have some sort of ground to comprehend where we go from here? Bye.
Well, I can try. I still don't know what it is. I know what it does. That's what Tom Bearden says about energy. He says energy, we define it as the capacity to do work. He goes, that's what it does. That's not what it is. And so, same thing with Matrix Energetics. Matrix Energetics originally, the words came together as a joke. When this Superman event that is written about in both books occurred, where I saw George Reeves as Superman, and I think it was an archetype, I knew something was up, something was different. And then there was a child with a lazy eye that got healed on the spot and is still fine for all I know. That was the watermark right there. And the next day, when I came back into the little home office that I had in Livingston, Montana, the word had already gotten out somehow about what was going on, and the people in that community talked, and so I had people lined up around the block practically waiting to get in, and I worked till midnight that first day with all the people that wanted to see me. And the miracles kept happening, and the way it looked initially, it was kind of, Craig, like a chiropractor doing energy work, I suppose, but immediately there was something different, because when I would touch somebody's body, their bodies would start to actually move, realign by themselves. This was even before I realized that there was a physics behind it. It was just me at the time, and so I called it me, M-E. And then originally people go, well, then I thought, well, maybe it's not me, maybe it's not just a gift, maybe somebody else could do it. So then I called it orthopedic psychic surgery. But then I realized that might piss off the orthopods, and it might also piss off the psychic surgeons, and it wasn't that accurate because I wasn't like going into the body and there wasn't any bleeding or, anything like that.
Right.
So then I called it Microsoft, but then that didn't last very long at all because, as you know, we're right in the backyard of Microsoft there in Renton. And I said, I think I'll call it Microsoft, point and click, where do the vertebrae want to go today? And that's kind of was true because I could point and the vertebrae would click and move into position. That was the beginning. I still was thinking like a chiropractor, albeit a weird one. Then I started reading a little bit, and I redefined that ME thing as matrix energetics. And what that refers to is the remote viewers believed they were accessing a universal matrix when they would do their viewing, and that all the information in the universe, all that had ever been and all that ever was contained within that matrix. And if you had the address, you could then access the information. Anybody could. So that was the first part of the name. And then psychoenergetics comes from the term that is actually used for the Soviet research into psychic phenomena, particularly remote influencing. I would say now we wouldn't call it psychoenergetics because we believe it's more information-based than energetics-based. But that's how it began. It all began with a name and a Superman.
I love that. That's a great combination. So this is going to be fun doing the two of you together because it really brings very different timelines, as I understand it, and very different perspectives. So, Melissa, when you first came on the Matrix energetic scene, what drew you to that? What did you think it was, and why were you headed down that path, given your background?
Well, what first drew me to matrix energetics was actually a disease that I had been suffering from, interestingly enough, for a number of years, and I could not get a correct diagnosis, and I absolutely could not get a correct cure. In fact, my diagnosis would change depending upon the specialist that I was seeing and their lens of perception and their perceptual biases about what they were trained to notice. And so I had been traversing the world through my career in pharmaceuticals with access to some of the best medical experts in various specialties, and really could not find a solution to what was disabling me in a number of different facets of my life. So I had attended an introductory ME course at the recommendation of my chiropractor, and when I first encountered what I appeared to be seeing, in other words, what it looked like was going on with respect to matrix energetics, I was fascinated. But there was also a tremendous sense of familiarity, as though I was watching something that was deeply inherently familiar to me, even though I had never been exposed to it, so to speak, in this lifetime. That led me to attend an ME seminar, and through the course of the seminar, I had wanted to have a direct interaction with Dr. Bartlett, and there was this little voice inside my head that said, you do not need to have an interaction with him. There's nothing to heal. There's nothing to fight. Stop resisting, let go, trust, and allow. And that kind of annoyed me because I really had come to a seminar to get healed from what I thought was a disabling disease. And what I had noticed over the next few days as the seminar unfolded was that many of the symptoms that I had been suffering from began to go away. And as the next month or two progressed in my life, all of my symptoms dissipated. And that got my attention. So I returned to another seminar about 2 months later. And while I had paid attention very closely during the first seminar, and I took copious notes, and I was really trying to learn it from a logical perspective, at my second seminar, I just couldn't seem to stay awake. I kept clicking out, and while I was aware of what was going on, I just wasn't consciously processing the information, which is one of the best ways to learn this seminar, because when you stop consciously filtering the information, it really seeps into your deep levels of awareness at the unconscious level. And during one of the times when I was paying attention, during the time travel section of the seminar, I looked up, and Richard was looking at me from the stage, and he said very clearly, pay attention closely. You will be teaching this someday if you so choose. And I turned to my friend who had come to the seminar with me, who was also a chiropractor, and I said, "Did you just hear what he said to me?" And she said no, and repeated very distinctly what Richard had actually said. And that was a moment that I chose to really pay attention, because a part of my awareness was acutely aware that he was not speaking to me. But there was another aspect of my awareness who had heard very clearly that I needed to pay attention. And even though I didn't have any idea what that might mean for me, how that might possibly unfold, because it made no logical sense relative to the career that I had been on for the last 15 years, I paid attention, and I began to study diligently and pretty much attended every single seminar for the next couple of years before I began working with Richard in a consultant basis. And to say that my life has transformed is an understatement. I was first attracted to matrix energetics because I thought it was a method of healing. What I've since discovered in the many, many years that I've been working with Richard is that this is a morphic field of consciousness potential, which means that the information that is embedded within this field is available and accessible to transform any pattern of consciousness, which means physical patterns, mental patterns, emotional patterns, spiritual patterns, relational patterns, financial patterns. Universal consciousness doesn't discriminate, and therefore any experience that we may be having becomes ripe for a different interaction and a different expression of itself through universal consciousness, through this field, which is based on what is possible, not what is not possible.
Okay, so I'm gonna. That's a lot, and it's perfect. And there was much that I resonated with in what you said, so I want to take a few of those pieces and throw them out to both of you. And before I do that, I just want to kind of personally share how, that I had the privilege of spending a day in Richard's office when he was still seeing patients and clients back then and outside of Seattle, and have taken Richard's workshops and actually met my current wife at the same time of attending those workshops. So Richard's influence has absolutely, and the influence of matrix energetics has certainly been a part of the transformation of my life, and I want to say that from the out front. So one of the things that you said that was a very, very difficult for me was that let go, trust, and allow 3-step dance that you mentioned. And I think that coming to Matrix with somebody that has professional degrees and coming with a lot of preconceived notions about how health works and how things work is a real challenge that one must overcome with this work, because there is just that place of you learn when you think you're not learning. You learn what a deeper level when you're not trying, and it's like a 180-degree switch. It's the whole play, not be serious. It's the whole create space, not move forward, step backwards. Can you speak to maybe your personal experience with that, either at the front of these workshops or having gone through it, or a little bit about that for people and what that's like?
Well, right now, I've been so busy, my hair's down to my shoulders, and I'm wearing a dolphin medallion between my eyebrows just to shake things up when I step on the stage. I tend to play guitar at the first because I can play guitar, and I was playing air guitar, and that was just silly when I can really actually play guitar. So the morphic field of matrix energetics is very serious. It's put together with some very high-end physics, some of the highest in the planet, the Russian torsion field physics or scalar physics. But the beauty of it is it is fun for little children. It is fun for mothers. It is fun for teenagers. It is fun for physicists and engineers and lawyers and cops and even, yes, doctors. I say that with hesitancy. But it's funny because the thing is when someone comes in and they have all these expectations on Friday night, they think to me they're there for healing, or they're there to learn a modality, or they've heard some crazy stuff. I always tell people, I said, I come out on stage, we both do, and I say, you're going to see some weird stuff. And the weirdest part of it all is if you stay for the entire seminar, you're going to be the weird one at the end, and we're going to be the normal ones. Because you will realize and make a transformation at some point that not only is this real, it is absolutely available for every single person in every walk of life, including dogs, and it will work for you, and it is not something you have to actually work at. And that is a huge turnaround for any professional, because they start to smile by about Saturday afternoon when they realize this really does work for them. They stop thinking quite so much. And in fact, I've had engineers tell me, I don't have a thought in my head, and it almost feels better than any vacation I've ever had. Thank you so much.
I get that. A story I retell that's profound for both patients of mine and practitioners of all sorts. I do a lot of teaching in the EFT world and other worlds, but one of the things I most remember in your office was a gentleman came in like a three-piece suit executive, and a dog was running through the office. Your office was piled high with instruments and a million other things. And when he came in, I was like, oh my God, this guy is just going to see Richard and his Superman P-shirt and this office, and he's going to turn the other way. And obviously that wasn't the case. And what I saw deeper than, and I'll never forget this, is that what I saw you do was create a space of the possibility of healing like what a shaman does. In other words, in the world that he stepped into of your office, his diagnosis didn't exist as a reality. His past didn't exist as a reality. Who he was in that moment had the ability to be somebody, something different than he ever was. And what you were was almost an orchestrator of the space, of the field. Does that resonate? That was my experience. And
that totally resonates with me. It's an honor to play a host to this field. We talk about the words of Jesus, and I substitute Father for field, and I say, the field worketh, and I worketh hitherto. And I don't think that I'm the doer at all anymore. In fact, I can sit down in the back of an auditorium filled with people, and someone will be up on stage that I started interacting with, and the interaction will continue long after I've even walked out of the room. It has little to do with me other than that, just like a conductor actually doesn't play any of the instruments, but he has all the awareness in his head of the symphony. It is what's going on in his awareness and how he's holding that field of the symphony that makes the difference. And yet the instruments practically play themselves when you get swept up in the field of inspiration that is very real and present in every seminar.
Part of why the seminars are so popular is that it isn't about anything that we are doing as the teachers of the field. We are facilitating by virtue of getting out of the way so the field can work through us. And this field is available to all of our students. So referring back to your question about the need to trust and let go and get out of the way, that is the formula for which, all miracles seem to unfold with respect to the morphic field of matrix energetics. When we learn to get out of the way, this awesome field that is based on potential, equally weighted possibility states that are awaiting our recognition so they can unfold as experience, that just becomes a natural state of flow when you step into this field. So there is nothing that you need to do other than stop holding yourself in a state of no change. Change is our natural state. It unfolds when we tap into this field, and we aren't the doers. We are actually doors for this infinite potential to move through us.
Oh, I like that one. That was good. Thank you. We're not doers, we're doors. That was good. Share with me your experience on this. My thought and my personal experience has been if somebody walks into my door with a particular desire, whether it be for healing or for a relationship to heal or physical or something to change financially in their life, what they walk in with is one thing. A space and the field is then doors opened, the field is tapped, something changes, and it's very common that something will change in their life. It may have something or absolutely nothing to do with what they walked in with. How does one regulate some sort of experience, practice, whatever you want to call what people do who do ME? How do they explain that what you came in for may not change, but something else may, very dramatically. Can you speak to that? Because you can't control the field.
Well, you can control the way the field is orchestrated through your awareness. But the first thing you do is, in giving up control, the field then gives it back to you. So once you are in rapport with the field, you can actually, like I can point at a hip, and from the level of my heart awareness can say move, and that hip will move right there when I ask it to. It's not moving because I'm doing anything or projecting energy or creating a force or putting energy over someone or a thing. It moves because it is a part of this field as well, and a polite request is heeded.
The other aspect is that when we are teaching our students and training them to become certified practitioners to practice in a clinical setting, we teach them about the very holographic nature of the universe, and that all of our interactions with clients are not necessarily approaching them from a physical standpoint or a Newtonian physics standpoint, that we are in fact dealing with holographic patterns of light, information, and resonance. And when we change up our resonance with a particular configuration of information, that creates a different experience. So we tell our practitioners and we train them extensively on facilitating awareness to notice what's different, not what is the same. And sometimes changes will show up that seem completely unrelated to whatever it was that intention was that brought them into our office. But because the body is a holograph, and holographically all of our patterns are interconnected, if we shift up and notice through awareness that one pattern has changed, it creates a ripple effect that will continue to unfold and may in fact revert back to the very first intention that brought them into the office to begin with.
Okay. So how do you, Melissa, one of the things that I've loved in watching your work and online and different forums is that you bring that wonderful blend, as Alina and I call it, the art and science of what we do. That I don't want to say that Richard's not the science part, but there's a sense of you bringing a love and a passion for verifying, what to many people seem very woo and energetic and not graspable. And so speak to me about how something can be not even like, for example, all right, so Richard says, all right, I send this intention from my heart to the person's hip. It's not an...
Craig, we lost you for a moment, so I didn't hear the rest of your question.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, I'll repeat. Thank you. So I'm just speaking about how you balance, like if Richard sends that heart intention to somebody's hip, and we're not using an energetic model to send light and information from one to the other, how do you, given your background in science and the pharmaceutical industry, how do you grok the science and what feels so woo-woo to some, and how do you find that balance between that?
It is a constant dance, indeed. With respect to the physics that supports and serves as a trajectory for what we appear to be observing in matrix energetics, I would explain it from the standpoint of the torsion field physics, because that is the model which most closely describes what it is that we think is going on with respect to matrix energetics.
Okay, so tell us.
So what that would mean from a simple standpoint is that when we drop down into the field of our heart, the field of the heart is a torsion field. It is a tube torus, or two counter-rotating spirals that contain information. Now, the torsion field of the heart is actually the connecting point to the 0-point field, or universal consciousness, or undifferentiated consciousness potential. From there, everything forms. So our physical body, our experiences, our thoughts, our opinions, these are all nestled as information within torsion fields. So when we drop down into the field of our heart, we have a connection to all of universal consciousness. And then if we allow for our awareness to focus specifically on a pattern that has been labeled as a hip, that hip is a torsion field that has information within it. And what ends up happening is the field of our heart connects up from one torsion field to the torsion field in the hip, and there is a transfer of information. And then what is observed or experienced or expressed as a result of that transfer of information opens as energy. So while we are not running energy, we are plugging into or establishing resonance with information as potential. And when that potential opens, it is experienced and expressed as energy.
Okay. That's pretty much the scalar model. That's also the Russian psychoenergetic model. That is also the torsion physics model, which is primarily a Soviet model. I've studied the physics so much at this point, I've read hundreds of physics books, that I realize that I am the physics. And so what's really nice for me at this point, because Melissa is so articulate and wonderful with people, is I play kind of bad shamanic cop. I will go to the coyote shaman world and somewhat be ridiculous, but I can turn on a dime and I can quote to you the physics. However, I'm a little older. Melissa actually remembers what she's quoting. I just remember I read it somewhere.
Go ahead, Melissa. I'm sorry, and then I'll comment.
I was just going to say is that, all of our scientific models are merely maps to describe the territory, but they are not the territory. And so many students who come in are looking for something tangible to describe the indescribable, which is often what we experience when we encounter this field of matrix energetics. And so being able to provide the linear, logical, analytical aspect of ourselves some food for thought that is substantiated by scientific research can be extremely useful, but it is just a model to describe what we think is going on. But as some scientists would admit behind closed doors, we never really know.
Right. I'm sorry, Richard?
We have a dear who is, he's got a PhD in physics from Cornell and a PhD in physics from Princeton. And he has written about matrix energetics in his book, Life Force, The Scientific Basis. His name is Claude Swanson. And he is like a little child when he's with us. He's absolutely he's a delight to be with. He's a true scientist, as in he knows that he has a model, but he doesn't really know, but he's fascinated in finding out, and he loves interacting with this field because he experiences it within himself, and he can track it when he's there, even though it's outside of the model of his left brain Princeton Cornell physics training. When he's in it, he understands that it is real, it is applicable to him, and it is available to all. And it's just a joy to have someone like that for a friend who is as bemused as we are about the physics of what's going on here.
Really, matrix energetics becomes like a universal language for getting into a conversation with that which is universal consciousness. So whether you're attracted to the science or you're attracted to the spiritual aspect or you just want to play, there is something available for everyone who comes in contact with this field. And really all that it requires is just a smidgen of curiosity, and that's enough to open into what is possible and available through matrix energetics.
Okay, I want to move to the importance. Richard, again, I'm using all my own filters, but one of the gifts that I see brought to my life was that very conscious playfulness. I have a sense that that's just an integral part of you, but you use it strategically. You use it as a shaman would use a mask. You use it in a way to be able to help and assist people to think beyond what they normally think. Can you speak to, I really want to explore that element of silly, playful as a real tool, as a transformational tool, not just to be sarcastic, not just to make a joke, but in a true life-altering kind of way. Could you speak a little bit to that?
I never open my mouth on stage without putting both feet in it and then putting both feet firmly in someone else's field, because it's a very serious thing to me. I'm actually not a silly person. I'm a very serious, thoughtful, person. I went to medical school twice just in case I might have missed something. You don't do that, if you have a frivolous nature. Now, I do have the musical side of me that plays bass and keyboards and composes and so on and so forth. That part probably got a little bit of the trickster, but really what has happened is this field gives you the sense of grace and freedom and joy without having any reason for having those feelings. In other words, it's disconnected from an actual feeling. It is a field effect that everyone experiences, and we find very serious scientists or doctors up there just giggling their brains out because when the field touches them, they open, and when they open, it's like a flower seeing the sun for the first time in 30 years. It's always amazing. It fills me with awe.
Is there a lightness to the field inherent? Is that your experience? Or is that just...
I'm sorry, what?
Does the field have, in your experience, an inherent light, is that something you experience as the natural state of the field to have some of those qualities?
The field's like a tornado on laughing gas.
Okay. I think
it's super powerful. It's super powerful. I mean, if it decides to direct itself into a pattern or a problem or a condition, it's like a surgeon. But it is like a surgeon that is very happy with his career.
Go ahead.
The field is it's very, very childlike. In fact, we encourage everyone to adopt a state of childlike wonder, because the more you act in a childlike aspect and essence, the more the field recognizes itself through you. So we encourage playfulness because the field itself is it's just filled with play. That is its essence and its secret weapon for transformation.
And yet in most of the cultures we know, I'm saying this with some sarcasm, is it that the field doesn't exist? Because we sure don't see a heck of a lot of lightness and playfulness in most of the communities and cultures and places that we exist. So what's happening?
That's true, and we have a lot of disease, and we have a lot of isolation and loneliness and despair, and a lot of forgetting that, love and joy is our natural state. And the field itself is here to remind us of our true essence, which is that and only that.
And I will say again, joy for no emotional, mental, intellectual reason. You can be in the middle of a serious life challenge, and this field will bring joy into even those dark places. It is quite amazing, and it is a very specific morphic field that I engineered directly and with intent, but it has become now this great, it's almost like a whale started out a minnow, and now the whale is taking wings. It's phenomenal how powerful and yet how playful and how loving and caring, yet how it can just demolish someone's ego sometimes. It is just, I'm in awe of it every day, all day. It is truly an amazing thing to behold and to be part of.
Can you, just for those people that are just kind of like, okay, so what does that look like? What does that feel like? I don't want to say give me an example, but yes, I do. So a story or some way that some people that might be having a hard time kind of grokking what we're talking about, a way that might help them hear it in a different way, that might make it more solid or palpable to them, what that might look like in somebody's life when the field changes, what they start laughing when they're in the middle of at a funeral. I mean, what could be something that might be useful?
Okay, I'll give you an example that I just received. In fact, I could probably read it to you. Well, I won't read it. Basically, I had a woman that scheduled a Skype appointment with me, and really you're scheduling an appointment with the field when you do something like that. And she had a public speaking fear that she'd had for 30 years. It was quite severe, and she needed to be able to be comfortable in order to move forward in her business, to move forward in her profession, to actually be able to communicate with her colleagues. And it was a serious problem for her, and she would choke up whenever she would think about public speaking. And she said I interacted with her. We had a 30-minute appointment, which 30 minutes or 3 minutes or 3 seconds, it could be more than enough. And she reported back to me, I just got this in email, and said that I don't know what happened, but whatever we did together, it's completely different for me. My fear of public speaking is completely gone. I've found that not only am I talking to my colleagues, but my colleagues are telling me how articulate I am and what a good speaker, something I never imagined in my life. And she said, and I just got a promotion at my job as a direct result of my newfound confidence. And she says, I can't thank you enough and thank this field enough for the joy of what has transpired in my life through the contact of this matrix energetics phenomenon.
And of course, the knee-jerk reaction to that would be, and what did you do to her?
And I was just going to say, as you probably know, Craig, it is not really even possible to say what it is that we do in any particular session because it's not a technique. So I'll go ahead and let you answer what you did if you do remember.
Well, really, I just watched her, talked to her, felt the field interact with the two of us. We teach something called unplugged spatial clairvoyance, and I am able at this point to watch patterns moving around in someone's physiological and energetic space, which we can teach anybody to do that in one day. But I was doing that, and I just watched where things were organized, and I watched them change where they were organized, and when they changed, I was pretty sure she was different. Her physiology was different. Her experience, when she would think about her quote, problem was completely different. And the field did all that, and it was effortless as breathing.
What ends up happening is that we teach our students different ways of navigating through this field because the field itself is pretty limitless. There's a tremendous amount of information that's encoded in the field, and depending upon which information you plug into, that allows for different configurations or twists of the torsion field, so to speak. And some of the ways include a 2-point, which is really a measurement that started off on the physical body, but it now is a way of navigating between what you are currently experiencing and specifically the change that you'd like to move into resonance with. We teach time travel, which enables us to traverse backwards and forwards in time in order to establish resonance with patterns that we may be holding in a stuck point. So, for example, if someone has a fear of public speaking, it may be that they've encoded in their individual biofield a particular experience that transpired at some point in the past. And in order to change it in the present moment, which is all of the time, there is no past, present, or future. Time itself is not linear, but to be able to navigate backwards to the pattern inception, release that information so that it can reconfigure back as potential, allowing for more energy to become available, really enables students and clients to step into more of their total potential. So there's not a specific way that we follow information, but once you've experienced the field and been through a seminar or read the books or listened to the audios, you develop different ways of navigating through this field of consciousness, and you're able to follow informational patterns in the moment as they are unfolding. And through the act of observing them, you're able to support or facilitate clients moving into a different resonance so they can experience themselves differently.
I mean,
It's kind of like the prophet Aaron was told by God, take no thought of what you will say or how you'll speak. Open your mouth and I will speak through you. And that's kind of what happens. It's not our knowledge that or our ability that really is the turning point in anyone's pattern or condition or experience. It is our ability to get out of the way and to surrender the sense of our knowledge and our intellect and our awareness, because the field is far greater in knowledge and awareness and ability than any one man or any one group of men, a platoon of super soldiers. It is a true phenomenon that the wisdom and the beauty and the joy and the power and the grace that I get to see daily is truly awe-inspiring.
Well said. It was, and what you said was a joy as far as the nonlinearity of time and space with regarding the organization of the field, having had the privilege recently of spending some time with Rupert Sheldrake and Jill, and looking at the organization of the field through constellations of generations, looking at how a resonant field creates a cultural paradigm, that it seems as if that, the observer effect, all these different aspects of resonance, of, thank God for places like HeartMath and all the different people that are looking to look, how does the field organize? What influences it? What de-evolves it? What moves it in a different, what allows it? And every time that I even start speaking about it, it's almost like there's this intention we're setting, but then the intention is to stop intending, it's to get out of the way and let it unfold. So it always feels like this dance of doing, not doing, intending, allowing, and that duality is just quite a lesson to learn, I would say, at least for myself.
Well, there's a I think it's a Buddhist saying, a Taoist saying that we have adopted as our own. We might have T-shirts. It says, the goal is to do nothing and to leave nothing undone. That pretty much covers it.
That was good.
What's really nice about playing in this field and in embodying the art and science of doing nothing is that it serves as a vantage point for navigating through three-dimensional reality, which is based on duality and polarities. So basically you get the advantage of being an observer and seeing the totality of the polarity and the contrasts and the distinctions that are made when you're navigating through it. And what that enables you to do is be able to recognize that you're going to do something, but you're doing something from a state of being where you have access to the all, rather than being a separate individual trying to go up against something or make something happen. You become one with that which with you are intending, and then that intention just naturally unfolds as experience.
Thank you. That was excellent message. I know there was one other thing I wanted to ask. So, Richard, another personal experience, but one I've shared many times, was as you were just saying, is being able to pull from all of consciousness. Melissa Joy was just saying, in a healing capacity, in a practice, you had a wall, and I know which wall that you know about because there were many pictures on that wall. And there were many people, past, present, and future, that were mentors and healers. Could you speak a little bit about that? I love that model that I share with people, but it's best spoken by you. So,
well, I wanted my inspiration close to me, and I wanted to be able to access the field of their knowledge and awareness, which every idea, every thought that is given life and then given a chance to grow creates a specific morphic field. Some of those morphic fields of these great healers and masters and teachers are much bigger by resonance than say an average individual's experience, and so you can actually surf off of the wave of a large field in order to direct very specific results for an individual by not using your own knowledge, awareness, or power, but by taking advantage of the collective resonance which is represented by the pictures on the wall or the various charts or things that I have there.
So your greatest heroes, healer, maybe even some examples so people understand what I mean. Who were on your wall?
John of God, Viktor Frankl, Harry Edwards, Jesus, Saint Germain, Melissa, my dog Dexter, my French bulldog, any number of influences. The thing about it is we teach something called templates where you can find a reference for anything. It's like I was working on stage with somebody today, and we worked with we worked with an orthopedic surgeon pattern, we worked with an acupuncture pattern, we worked with a psycho-emotional pattern of dolphins doing psychoanalysis on a 5-year-old. This was on a 40-year-old man, all at the same time, so these field effects were folded on each other and amplifying each other in resonance to create a total effect. And it was quite amazing to watch because you watched him look like he became a little child. He started giggling. When he came up on the stage, he looked kind of sad and afraid, really. And then his body relaxed. You could see adjustments going on in his system. His hip was rotating. His posture was changing. He got deeper and deeper into a very, very altered state. And all I was doing is standing at the edge of the stage and kind of commenting gently like a sportscaster or something, watching an event.
I have a picture. I do. Excuse me. So, basically now, the body of work continues to evolve. Is it changing? Have you seen, as you're teaching it, is the field changing of students? What's happening in the evolution of your work and matrix energetics now? Tell me a little bit about that.
Ever since Melissa Joy has come to join me, and we've started Say on the Heart, and we've taught the new physics, and we have let go and learned more and more, the field has gotten incrementally stronger with every passing month almost. The teaching has become effortless because Melissa and I pretty much just read each other's thought waves as we're up there, and we flow back and forth very naturally. I might be playful or wacky in one moment and then very serious in the next, and she might take that wave and move it in a different direction, and all sorts of things happen and conspire. Really, conspire is the word for each event to be so unique. It's like a Grateful Dead concert. I never play the same solo twice.
What's really great about how strong the field has become is that our students seem to be getting the information so easily that it really wouldn't even matter if we taught the physics or gave logical explanations for what we think is happening. The field is just become more powerful. The very nature of a morphic field is that the more people who are plugging into that grid of potential creates more power in that grid itself. And so as thousands and thousands of students have met matrix energetics and begun to play with this consciousness potential, the field itself has become more powerful. So even though the teachings might have evolved and become more clear and speak to a more broad range of students from all walks of life, it is not really us that have brought the field forward. It is the field bringing the field forward as individual consciousnesses that encounter the field expand, the field itself becomes more powerful. So we really honor and appreciate all the students who have contributed their time and energy and effort toward allowing for this field to unfold through them through transformation, because as each person plugs into this grid, it becomes more powerful, and it's like turning on light all around the planet. And it's a really exciting thing to be a part of, and it's quite humbling, and it's an honor, and it's just a great joy, and we want to share it with as many people as possible. So I would say if you're remotely interested and curious and you feel a little inner voice pulling at you saying, what's here for me, then trust that voice and look us up and come to a seminar.
Great, because we're going to talk about that. I just want to say, are you having the time of your life doing this?
Oh, yeah, the time of several lifetimes. It's amazing.
It's a blast because even though we teach every other week, every single seminar is different. We have absolutely no idea what's going to unfold. We are still tickled pink by what this field brings forward, and we're absolutely amazed at what becomes possible for students.
Good.
I'll tell you, such rewarding things is to watch people on Friday night look at us again like we're aliens, and they're so confused and they're so perplexed and so full of the thoughts in their head or their concerns, and by the time they get done with us on Monday, they're lucky if they can crawl across the floor without giggling and hallucinating. It's quite a transformation that everybody goes through, and it is so useful and so individualized that it astounds me to behold what is possible. And we really can't claim authorship of those transformations. We show up to support that, but it is really the individuals as they unfold and transcend their previous models. It is the individuals embracing the field as a personal experience that makes the difference.
Yeah, I would say I've seen that, I've witnessed that, and what also I see is the effect of playfulness in the field like that is keeping you guys looking fabulous and young. I swear to God, I think you're getting younger, not older each year. I just keep watching, and it's a beautiful thing to witness. With as far as, time is not linear, and yet also it seems as if we have some local workshops coming up. You're going to be in Seattle in October, aren't you?
We are in Seattle in October, October 11th through the 16th. We're teaching the fundamentals, which is the introduction to matrix energetics, followed by the practitioner certification training. Those will be back-to-back seminars. And the Friday night section of the Matrix Energetics Fundamental Seminar is free and open to the public. So we would invite everybody and their friends and family and dogs and so forth to show up on Friday night with open hearts and open minds and see if there's something here for you. There seems to be for everyone that comes in contact with the field.
That sounds like a great party. And for people to get more information, it's matrixenergetics.com, yes?
That is correct. www.matrixenergetics, matrixenergetics.com.
That was clear as a bell. Thank you. So as we wind down this wonderful episode of the Transformational Dialogues, thank you, guys. I mean, you're in the middle of a workshop. You're in a hotel. You're taking the time to be on the show as we're recording this, and I just want to extend my heart to say thank you for this time. Thank you for sharing your precious time and field and heart with me. It's been a joy interviewing you. I look forward to seeing you hopefully in Seattle next month, and I'll try to make it to that Friday night party and see any of our listeners that can make it, which would be great to see you. And if you're looking for any other information on any other the other interviews that we've had here with people like Bruce Lipton and other people that are, and Lynn McTaggart and so many people working with, in this wonderful matrix that we're all living in. Just check out transformationaldialogues.com or look up Transformational Dialogues on Facebook, and you'll find Dr. Craig Weiner in the show. So thank you guys so much. You get to go play now or rest or eat or do whatever you want, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig.
It's been a joy and a pleasure.
Craig?
Yes.
Are we off recording?
Not yet. I'll now have to edit that off. So hold on just a second and I'll stop it.